And God said, Amen. Genesis chapter 40, verse number 15. I was forcibly carried off from the land of the Hebrews, and even here I have done nothing to deserve to be put in a dungeon. I want to talk this morning from this thought, from this theme. I felt like giving up. I felt like giving up. Do you remember a moment in your life when you were trying to figure out why certain things were happening to you? A moment when life was happening in an unimaginable way, in an undesirable way. Maybe it was when no matter how hard you tried, you couldn't get yourself together. Maybe it was when no matter how hard you were trying, you couldn't get the job. Maybe it was when sickness made a visit to your life and had no exit plan. Maybe it was when the death angels seemed to be parked in the intersection of your friends and family. Maybe it was when it seemed like you just couldn't do nothing right. Maybe it was when this pandemic seemed to have no end. And quite frankly, many of us have had moments over this last year and throughout our lives when life has made us want to give up. I'm talking to anybody? We've had moments when the line, I just can't take no more, wasn't a cliche, but it was our life. Joseph, a brother who rises literally from the bottom to the top, went through moments just like this. Joseph had to go through some unimaginable seasons that momentarily made him strongly consider giving up. Joseph had moments in his life that literally went in the opposite direction of the dreams that God had placed in his spirit. His life and his dreams, y'all, for quite some time were in conflict. They were polar opposites. They never saw eye to eye. And quite frankly, isn't it? It's hard to accept it when God tells you one thing and life shows you something else. Can I preach right there? It's hard to take it when God says, I have plans to prosper you, plans to give you hope in the future, but life does its best to hurt you. It's hard to keep going when no matter how hard you try, it's one thing after another. I wish I had somebody to talk to. Imagine Joseph's excitement after dreaming that he will be used by God to do great things. But then he is forced to watch his life take a downward spiral. Imagine the tension between his dream and his reality when his brothers of all people become so jealous of him that they sell him, their own flesh and blood, into slavery. All of a sudden, he goes from a brother with potential to a brother with a big problem that he can't solve. He goes from being moderately comfortable to being consistently uncomfortable. But what is interesting as we follow the journey of Joseph is that sometimes it is the uncomfortable moments to draw you closer to your divine and providential destiny. It's sometimes, y'all, the uncomfortable moments that give you the power to chart the new territory. I feel like preaching today. It's sometimes the uncomfortable moments that fuel the faith that drives you to finish what God has ignited. Joseph's discomfort does not decrease as he adjusts to life as a slave, but it gets even more uncomfortable when he is wrongfully accused and sent to jail for a crime, watch this, that he did not commit. Can you imagine the pain, the agony that Joseph is going through? Sold into slavery by his brothers, and then sent to prison for having morals and ethics that his accuser does not have. Life for Joseph is not going the way that he dreamed it would go, prayed it would go, and believed it would go, which is a reminder that there are situations in life that will not be what we imagine they would be, but it does not mean, watch this, that they are not good for us. There were moments when situations will not be what we have prayed they would be, but it does not mean that they are not what God intends them to be. Sometimes, Morning Star, it's the rough moments that prepare us for the destiny that God desires for us. Let me offer for your careful consideration as I make my way down the runway that sometimes what we consider as setbacks are in essence moves of God that are happening for a divine reason. The setbacks are not always moments of demonic injection, but they are sometimes moments of divine interference. Could it be that your sickness is of divine origin? Could it be that being rejected by the one you cared for was divinely orchestrated? Could it be that the season of imprisonment has been a part of God's divine plan? Could it be that addiction that couldn't break you actually worked in your favor? Joseph has been sold into slavery. He has been falsely imprisoned, and to make matters worse, he has to wait beyond an intolerable and, in his mind, inexcusable period. While in jail, he uses his gift and his sensitivity to God to help somebody else get out of jail. Go figure. The Bible says in chapter 40, while serving time for a crime that he did not commit, he meets the chief cupbearer for Pharaoh, who has been having dreams that he did not understand. The chief cupbearer hears that Joseph has this gift that makes dreams understandable, and Joseph uses his gift and interprets the chief cupbearer's dream and then asks for one favor in return. He says to the chief cupbearer, when all goes well with you, do me this favor. Remember me and show me kindness. Mention me to Pharaoh and get me out of this prison. Joseph tells the cupbearer, I was forced from the labor of the Hebrews, and if that wasn't enough, I get here to Egypt and I am thrown into jail on false charges. He says, I don't deserve some of the things that have happened to me. I didn't deserve the treatment that I received from my brothers. I didn't deserve to have been thrown into jail because I refused to yield to temptation. I don't deserve to have been forgotten by the people that I've helped. But this is exactly what happened here in chapter 40. Joseph uses his spiritual gift to interpret the dream of the cupbearer, but the cupbearer forgets about the bridge that led him from bondage to breakthrough. Verse 23 says, the chief cupbearer, after being freed, after being given another chance, did not remember Joseph, he forgot him. And so now Joseph, after being rejected by his brothers, after being sold into slavery, after being wrongly accused, after being convicted of a crime that he did not commit, after showing his kindness to the cupbearer, Joseph has reached, watch this, his breaking point. Have you ever reached a breaking point? Joseph feels like he can't win for losing. He feels like nothing is or has ever worked in his favor. And Joseph feels like his dreams will never become his reality. Joseph feels like giving up. And how about you? How often have you simply felt like giving up? Bible says he was forced into from the land of the Hebrews, and now here in Egypt, he says, I am in prison, but I have done nothing to deserve this. Joseph says, I was betrayed and rejected for being gifted. I'm going to rewind that. I was betrayed and rejected simply because I'm gifted. I was lied on and abused for having ethics and morals. I was overlooked and forgotten when I did the right thing. I was dragged through the fire when I thought I was being faithful. And I finally reached a point where I just don't have anything left in me to give. I reached a point where I'm considering if the best thing for me to do is to simply give up. This past week, Naomi Osaka, considered by some to be the top women's tennis player in the world, dropped out of the French Open because as she cried out for help to battle her mental health illness, she was punished instead of being heard. And in not being heard, she felt as though the best thing to do was to walk away for a season. Have you ever felt like walking away because you weren't understood, you weren't appreciated, and you weren't being heard? This is, y'all, where I want to dig for hope, because there are so many persons who are at a point of wanting to move forward, but knowing if you can, not knowing if you can. There's so many persons who have taken so many hits over the course of your life that you just feel like giving up. So many persons who over these last 15 to 16 months, whose life and emotions have been on a roller coaster ride through the chaos of the season, that has raised the question, should I just give up? When the death angel hits you back to back, you felt like giving up. When sickness drained you, wounded you, wearied you, you felt like giving up. When doors were closing in your face, friends could not be found, and you felt like you were hanging on by a thread, you felt like giving up. When problems were mounting, bills were growing, money was dwindling, and faith was shrinking, you felt like giving up. And I've come on this great day to tell somebody who feels like giving up, this is not the season to throw in the towel. No, it's not. This is not the season to give up, but this is the time to believe that there is a purpose for your pain. This is not the season to ease God out, but this is the time to declare that God promised to make ways in the desert seasons. He promised to be my refuge and my strength. He promised to be my provider. He promised to be my strength. He promised to walk with me through the valley and the shadow of death. But the issue is, how come I'm seeing more problems than promise? That's the question. How come I'm seeing more problems than promise? How come I'm taking hits that I can't seem to handle, that are making me think I just need to give up? The question becomes, how do you move forward when you feel like giving up? Well, I'm glad that you want to know, because the Bible says that when Joseph felt like giving up, Joseph did this. Joseph talked about the temptation. Joseph told his story. Listen to what he said. Joseph said, I was forced from the land of the Hebrews, and now here in Egypt, he says, I'm in prison, but I've done nothing to deserve this. He tells the cupbearer what has happened to him. He tells his story. He tells how he ends up in Egypt in prison. And I believe that there are moments when to keep from falling further into the dark places of life, that we have to find a healthy way to release the weight that has been placed on our shoulders. I feel like talking. We have to be like Joseph, find a way to tell somebody, even somebody like the cupbearer, who probably was not really listening because he was caught up in his own problem. But let me suggest that releasing your story is not always about who hears it. But sometimes it's about you putting in words how you feel in your heart, your mind, and your soul. Sometimes telling your story is about you putting in words, not just for others to hear, but for you to hear the strain of the temptation that has weighed you down. Joseph tells his story. Joseph talks about his nightmare. He speaks about the agony that he has endured. He talks about the weight of his burden. Joseph is not being dramatic. He's not exaggerating the situation. He is not bleeding on the cupbearer. But what he is doing is releasing and telling his story. And sometimes to keep from losing your mind, you just got to tell your story. Sometimes to keep from giving up, you got to be strong enough to tell and talk about what you know is weighing you down. I mentioned earlier Naomi Osaka withdrawing from the French Open because of the weight that she was carrying every day. Some disagree with her, but if she had not withdrawn, perhaps the issue would have not been seen as significant. I wish more persons would talk about the weight that they carried. I wish more persons would release the weight and not cling to the weight. I wish more persons would shout it out and scream it out. Perhaps if more persons talked about the weight that they carried, maybe mass shootings would decrease. If more persons talked about the weight they carried, maybe addictions would go down. If more persons talked about the weight that they carried, maybe more marriages would survive. If more persons talked about the weight they carried, maybe more families would be more functional and less dysfunctional. There comes a moment when to keep from losing your mind, you've got to release the weight. You've got to tell your story. Talk, Debnam. Tell what's hurting you. Tell what's frustrating you. Tell what's breaking you. Tell what's on your mind. You can be strong and still tell your story. Tell what's stressing you. We've got the perfect example. There's Jesus who talked about the weight that he carried while on his way to a cross called Calvary, a moment called redemption, and a road called salvation. Jesus said to God, God, if it be possible, let this cup pass me by, this heavy cup, this unbearable cup, this stressful cup. But as he was talking and releasing, he heard God, and he said, nevertheless, not my will, but thy will be done. Sometimes you've just got to tell your story. When you tell your story, God gives you power. When you tell your story, God gives you strength. When you tell your story, God anchors you. When you tell your story, God sets the captives free. When you tell your story, chains are broken. Is there anybody who's ever had to tell their story and God blessed your life? God healed you. God made a way for you. God told you everything's going to be all right. Sometimes you've got to tell your story. Write in the chat, say, tell your story. Listen, even if they're not really listening, it ain't for them. It's for my release. It's for my faith. It's for my joy. It's for my peace. Joseph tells his story, but he also shares with us that we're going to move forward, even though we feel like giving up. What becomes necessary is a focus on purpose, not on problem. Let me come after you. What oftentimes feeds the spirit of give up is when we spend our time thinking too much about the problem and not focusing on purpose. Let's not overlook the fact that at this point and at every point in Joseph's life, when problems presented themselves, they never forced Joseph to lose sight of his purpose. Here in this 40th chapter, we see Joseph interpreting the dreams of the cupbearer and the baker, even though he was in jail. You missed it. He was interpreting dreams using his gift, even though he was in jail. You didn't get it. Even though he was on lockdown, he was still using what God gave to him. Don't let your problem be the excuse for you not using your gift. Sometimes folk need to see you going through hell, but still being a blessing to know there is no secret what God can do. He still has a passion for his purpose, even though he is surrounded by his problems. You see, Joseph's life has been filled with problems. He had problems with his brothers, problems with his father, problems with his boss's wife. However, he has not allowed his problems to keep him from walking in his purpose and God's plan. Joseph's purpose has always been to get to the place where he would be a help to those who hurt. It was always God's purpose to have Joseph in place to help those who could not help themselves. Joseph stayed in purpose. And what we see through Joseph is that whenever there is a God-declared purpose for your life, the enemy will do his best to force you to give up on your purpose and God's plan. The devil does not want you to be in purpose. The devil wants your mind on your problems and not your purpose. However, the good news is if you remain faithful to your purpose, God will remain focused on the pain. And the plan is that God would have you in place to use the gift that some don't appreciate. The plan is that Joseph would expose Pharaoh to the power of God first through his gift. The plan is that Joseph would be used to save his people from the famine. Pharaoh needed to see the miracle before he could accept the word. Sometimes folk need to see the miracle in you before they can handle the word in you. The plan is that Joseph would be the voice of God to the people through their struggle. And what Joseph allows us to see is that he could not give up because every time he felt like giving up, God exposed his power through Joseph. And what somebody under the sound of my voice needs to understand is that God, through the problems and the pains of your life, has positioned you to prove to somebody else that God is real. Your persistence through your pain is proving to somebody that God is real. Your faithfulness through the roughest season of your life is proving to somebody that God is great and greatly to be praised. Your strength through your struggle is showing somebody that there must be a God. And Joseph didn't see it, and maybe you didn't see it, but let me show you the difference you are making by not giving up. Your smile in your struggle is your testimony to the world. You're singing the songs of God even though it's raining in your life is a testimony. You're serving the kingdom while you're sick and broken is a testimony. Men and women are seeing your good works and glorifying your Father who is in heaven. You are a witness of the wondrous working power of God. You are a testimony that God can turn your ashes into beauty. You are the word that has come alive. You are a stage for the word. Folk are seeing you and understanding that God is real. They are seeing you, hearing your story, giving the testimony that God can make a way out of no way. Is there anybody on YouTube, on Facebook, in the sanctuary who can take 10 seconds of my preaching time because you understand that God's using you to reveal miracles, signs, and wonders? They will see your good works and glorify your Father. Can I find somebody who don't mind if God gets the glory out of your life? You don't mind if he gets praised. You don't mind if his name is magnified. Let the redeemed. Let me attempt to close this thing. Joseph told his story. He focused on purpose, not just on problem. But then we finally learn from Joseph's story that when the feeling of give up tries to consume your thoughts, you've got to hold on, because when you hold on, you discover your pain will be justified in the end. Let me come get you. I'm just going to mess you up. The end will justify your journey. God, I need to say that to myself. The end will justify the journey. Don't get upset because the journey's rough. till you get to the end, because there will be glory after this. Preach, Dwayne, Debnam. You may never like the pain, but the pain, in the end, you'll understand the pain. Okay, let me show you. You got to go all the way to chapter 45 to see this. Chapter 45, Joseph and his brothers are reunited. They thought he was dead, and Joseph never imagined seeing his brothers again. But in verse 8 of chapter 45, it says, it was not, Joseph is talking to his brothers. He says, it was not you who sent me here, but God. He made me father to Pharaoh, Lord of his entire household, and ruler of all Egypt. Talk, Debnam. Joseph had to go through what he went through to become who he needed to be. He had to go through the struggle, all the pain, all the rejection and the betrayal to be positioned to fulfill his purpose. If he had not gone through the struggle, he would not be in position to fulfill the will of God. And so he had to be rejected by his brothers to make it to Egypt. He had to be sold into slavery to make it to Pharaoh's space. He had to be lied on to meet the cupbearer. He had to be forgotten by the cupbearer only to be remembered at the right time. He had to be in position to be the one to meet up with his brothers to bring them to Egypt to survive the famine. If he never had the pain, he would not be in purpose. And what I've come on this Sunday morning at 7:15 is to tell somebody who's wondering why so much pain. I've come to tell somebody who's wondering if they should just give up. Somebody who's wondering if they should just say enough is enough. Well, I need to let you know that there is purpose for your pain. I need to tell you there's a reason for the rigorous journey that you've been on. There's a divine reason for the sickness you've endured. There's a divine reason for the hurt, the pain, the trials you've suffered. There's divine reason for the battles you've fought and the mountains you've had to climb. There's a reason for what you've gone through, and the reason is you are the light of the world. You are the stage for the word. You are the witness for the word and the will of God. You are the chosen one. You are the one who God knows can take a hit and get back up. You are the one who God knows will keep getting back up. You are the one who God knows will keep fighting till victory is won. You are the one who God knows will press toward the mark of the high calling. You are the one who God knows understands that all things work together for your good. Rewind, Debnam. You are the one who understands that all things work together for your good. And so be not weary in your well-doing. You shall reap a harvest if you faint not. I feel like preaching this morning, and so don't give up, don't quit, but hold on. You're too close to seeing the why in your storm. Hold on, you're so close to seeing what God is doing. God is doing a great work in you. God is moving mountains through you. God is restoring hope through you. God is proving to you that quit ain't an option, but faith in the fire is. I've come to tell somebody, hold on, you're too close. I've come to tell somebody, stand still and watch for the salvation of the Lord. I've come to tell somebody, don't you dare let go. I need somebody to help me close this sermon. I feel like running. I've come to tell somebody, stand still and watch for the salvation of the Lord. Old church would say he may not come when you want him to, but he's always. I feel like preaching now. I've come too far the way I started from. Nobody told me that the road would be easy, but I don't believe he brought me this far to lead me right now. Is anybody who's been weary in their well-doing? Don't get weary in your well-doing, but hold on. You almost let go, but hold on. You almost let go, but hold on. Find somebody and tell them, hold on. You're almost doing the time. You almost turned your back. You almost quit. I almost let go. I felt like I couldn't take no more. I was this close. Is anybody who almost let go? I felt like I couldn't take no more. My problems had me bound. Depression weighed me down. But here's what God did. God held me close. Will God do it for you? Will God hold you close? Will God make ways for you? Will God make a way for you? Will God stand by your side? I need those folks on YouTube, on Facebook, in the sanctuary who felt like you almost let go. You would watch this. You felt like you couldn't take no more. But God's mercy. Anybody know anything about mercy? Anybody know God's mercy? God's mercy. Yeah, God's mercy. It kept me. Anybody been kept by the mercy of God? God's mercy kept me so I wouldn't let go. I almost gave up. I was at the edge of a breakthrough, but I couldn't see it. The devil thought he had me. The devil thought he had me. The devil thought he had you. But God's mercy, yeah, yeah, God's mercy. Anybody thank God for mercy? Anybody praise God for mercy? I need some folks who can praise God for mercy. Shout, scream, dance in your living room. Scream, dance, shout. I almost let go. I was at the edge of a breakthrough. God's mercy, God's mercy, God's mercy, God's mercy, God's mercy, God's, yeah. God's mercy kept me. God's mercy kept me. Kept me. Kept me.
I almost let go. I felt like I just couldn't take life anymore. My problems had me bound. Depression weighed me
me sing that loud again. I almost let go. I almost let go.
I almost
That's for somebody right now.
gave up. See, I was right at the edge of a breakthrough, but couldn't see.
This close.
The devil really had me, but Jesus came and grabbed me, and he held me close, so I wouldn't let go. God's mercy kept me, so I wouldn't let go.
I don't know who that's for, but somebody who's in worship right now. Facebook, on the app, sanctuary, you're in
I
worship.
felt like I just couldn't take life anymore. My problems had me bound. Depression weighed me down, but God held me low, so I wouldn't let go. God's mercies kept me, so I wouldn't let go.
These last 16 months, I don't know many persons who have not felt like giving up. So much has happened. Family, friends, job, finances, career, in your mind. But Joseph's story is a story of resilience. And my brother, my sister, what perhaps you may not realize about yourself is that you are resilient. God has given you the strength to keep on pushing. And what has helped you is this, is that you're understanding now that in the end, your pain will be justified. The end will justify the journey. You've got a story. And let me share with somebody. You tell your story, even the folk who seem like they're not listening. Because the telling of your story is not always for them, but sometimes it's for you. You need to hear for yourself what God is bringing you through, what God has taken you through. So today, God is saying, I'm sensitive to what you've been dealing with. And one of my remedies for you in this season is for you to focus on your purpose and not solely your problem. It amazed me, and I read this story many, many times before, but it amazes me that Joseph is still has passion to use his gift while in prison. He still interprets dreams, the cupbearer, the baker. And then for Pharaoh, when he gets the opportunity. And what God is saying to you, he's saying, don't let nothing take your passion for God. In this season where so many persons are dealing with fear and anxiety, you cannot allow fear and anxiety to keep you from worship. Cannot allow it to keep you from lifting up your hand, gathering together and watching God move in the midst. God's calling you back. He's calling you to move forward. He's calling you to move forward and to trust him in this season. That's what happened to Joseph. Move forward, Joseph. I got you. I protected you all this time. Don't you think I can keep you when things start to get better? I've kept you up until now. I'll continue blessing you. Listen, as a brother, as a sister who's in worship right now on YouTube, on Facebook, on our app, maybe even in the sanctuary, what God is calling you to do right now is to connect to him and his people. There's a purpose for you. You got to connect to God so you can grow in God, grow with God's people, understand the will of God for your life. And the best way to do that is to connect to God and people, his people, who are moving their life forward with God. How do you do that? I'm glad you're curious this morning. Here's how you do it. Right now, you can connect the Morning Star and God. How? You can text right now, MSBC Connect to 94000. You can call us at 410-747-3417. You can email at msbcmembership@msbcministries.org and simply say, I want to connect. I want to be a part of a move of God. I want to be among the people who are moving their lives forward. Watch this. As the pandemic draws to an end, it's time to connect, my brother. Text us right now. Text MSBC Connect to 94000. Call us at 410-747-3417. Email us at MSBC Ministries, MSBC Membership @msbcministries.org. And someone will respond quickly to let you know what your next steps are. Can you lift that once again as person making a choice for the Lord right now?
So I'm here today because God kept me. Yes, I'm alive today only because of His grace. Oh, He kept me. God kept me. Yes, He kept me. God kept me.
Connect right now.
Yes, He kept me.
Connect right now. Call
So
us.
I wouldn't
Email
let
us.
go.
Text us. Call us. Email us. Text us. Listen, we're getting ready for 9:15 worship experience, but here's what I want to do. I want to lift our offering before we close out the 7:15 service. I want you to prepare to give right now. I want you to go to one of those online platforms, Givelify, Text to Give, Cash App, and Fellowship. Bring your tithes, your offerings. The first Sunday in June. Can you believe it? The first Sunday is the first Sunday in June. This is the first Sunday in June. Cicadas are here, but they ain't stopping us from worship. They ain't stopping us from blessing the name of our God. Let's give right now. Your tithes, your offerings, your gift for missions, your gifts for our youth ministry, gifts for scholarship. We want to be a blessing to persons who are preparing to go to college in the fall. I want you to give to our scholarships right now. Your tithes, your offerings. Maybe you didn't give earlier. Maybe you need to sow a seed right now. Do that right now. Givelify, Text to Give, Cash App, and Fellowship. If you're going to mail your tithes, your offerings in, get that envelope addressed at the Morning Star Baptist Church, 1512 Woodlawn Drive, Gwynn Oak, Maryland, 21207. Or if you're going to drive up to the church after worship, listen, grab your car keys, call your Uber right now, get up here right after worship today. Get up here right after worship. We're giving right now. Don't forget, 3 o'clock is communion worship. We'll be in communion today at 3 o'clock. Next Sunday is Children's Day. We celebrate the children on next Sunday. Next Sunday is Children's Day. We're celebrating the children. Well, next Sunday, I'm preaching next Sunday, the future of your faith. The future of your faith. We're moving forward. I'm going to talk about that next Sunday. Then on the 17th, we're having a special candlelight vigil in honor of those persons who have lost their lives for the last 14 months, COVID-19 and the like. That's Thursday the 17th here on the front part of the church at 8 o'clock. We encourage you, send their names in. We want to pray for their families and friends. We'll have special candlelight vigil on June the 17th at the 8 o'clock hour, right where the eagle is at the front of the church. Wednesday, we'll be here for Bible study, 12 noon and 6:30. Of course, Tuesday, our Renaissance Center chat at 7 o'clock. I encourage you to be a part of that. They hold those every month, our Renaissance Center. Great time of strengthening and building folk in this season where your mental health and emotional health has been fragile. It's time to be built up. Thursday is our Women's Bold Table Talk at 7 o'clock. Encourage all the ladies to be a part of that. Saturday is our produce giveaway at 8 o'clock. We've served y'all over 65,000 individuals in this season. 65,000 individuals we've served. What a blessing. A community baby shower, vaccine host site. We've done so much, and it does not yet appear all that God has for us. And also Saturday at 11, I need to meet with every ministry worker and ministry leader Saturday at 11 on Zoom. We're talking about how we continue to move forward as we look forward to more and more persons in the sanctuary each Sunday.